Anime Central 2012. Wow.
Yes, we are.
Can
We
you
are
believe
here.
it? It's been a year. Yeah. Now, the last time that we saw you was OhioCon 2011.
Yeah, a little over a year ago.
It's been, how have you been since then?
I've been fantastic. I've gone on a few world travels and worked on a bunch of cool things, and life's been great.
Cool. Cool. Now, in our last interview, we talked about Summer Wars. What is it like to have a movie even considered for an Academy Award for Best Japanese Cast here in the States?
Well, I think it was going to be up for animated features was going for, but it was neat to be even on the actual full-on consideration list. It was one of 15 films.
Nice.
And I by no means take credit for anything to do with the movie except for just the dub. The movie is beautiful and wonderful, and I'm glad that it was even officially in the running. It's one of my favorite projects that I've ever worked on. I love that movie, and the dub is something I'm very proud of, and I think everyone did wonderful work on it. And if you haven't seen it, please see Summer Wars. It's awesome.
Now, is there any news on the Evangelion movie number 3 coming to the States?
The news that I know of is the news that all of you know of, is that the third film in that franchise will come out in Japan in the fall. I think it's October-ish. That's what I know.
So you're going to have to wait a while. Sorry.
I want to see it too.
Now, have you gotten to a rhythm with directing? And tell us about your work on Shiki.
Well, I've gotten into a rhythm as far as showing up every day to direct.
That's a good thing.
Yeah. As far as getting into a pattern, whatever, I try not to do that. I try to let each show be its own thing. But working on Shiki, that was fantastic. I'm a big fan of horror in general, and that's the first, I believe, full-on horror anime that I've got to work on, where it's not like, a horror element plus romance or a horror element plus action adventure. It's like horror. Yeah. So I loved it, and I had a fantastic time working on that, and I think it's a great show. You guys should check it out.
Everything's a great show that you worked on, right?
Well, I'm fortunate enough that I think that most of the shows that I work on are great when they hand them to me, and so I just try to make sure that the dub turns out well. But yeah, I get to work on a lot of cool stuff.
Now, Dragon Age.
Yes.
Did you have to keep the video games in mind when you were working on it?
Yes, I played a little bit through the first one, a little bit of the second one, more of the first one, and watched a lot of the cutscenes to keep the tone in mind and the dialogue in mind, that sort of thing. But I also had to keep in mind that we're making a film. It's going to be a little bit different to begin with, as any adaptation is. But I did try to keep the elements there where the core universe and the canon would be in the same world.
Now, when working on the show Hetalia, what thoughts did you have playing the small country of Estonia and its role relationship with Russia?
I wasn't that familiar with, of course, no, Estonia is a country, but I wasn't sure of the relationship between Estonia and Russia. And the way it's presented in Hetalia is cute and fun and, somewhat politically accurate. But it was fantastic to work on that show, and I got to line produce that as well, so I got to kind of oversee the whole project. I love that series. It's so fun.
Cool.
And terrible, funny, and mean, and awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
Fun role.
Terrible in a good way.
Yeah. Now, recently, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood movie was just released here in the States. What was it like working on that project?
It was fantastic. The Sacred Star of Milos could actually fall in the universe of either the old series or Brotherhood.
Okay.
So it's neat to work on another film in the FMA franchise. What was neat about that film to me was the animation crew and the director were different people that hadn't worked on the series before. So it didn't look like anything FMA that had existed prior to it. It had a lot.
Its own flavor to it.
It had its own flavor to it, and I think that was something that it needed.
That's a good thing.
It's a neat way to approach something that's already well established.
Right, because otherwise people probably might get a little annoyed with it. Or
I don't know about
bored
annoyed,
with
but like it just it doesn't offer as much for the viewer.
Right.
Obviously there's a story there, and that's going to be interesting, and plot line, and all these sorts of things that would go into it. But just the visual aspect of it, like, oh, this doesn't look like Brotherhood, and it doesn't look like the old series either.
Cool.
Neat.
I like that.
Neato.
Now, a lot of shows to continue moving ahead strongly. Tell us about your work on One Piece.
One Piece. One Piece is very long. I love working on One Piece. I feel quite fortunate. I mentioned earlier that I get to work on a lot of cool projects. One Piece, in my opinion, is by far the best of any of those extreme long running shows, like those 200 plus, 300 plus shows. I love it so much more than Dragon Ball Z. I love it so much more than Yu Yu Hakusho and Bleach and several other things.
Right.
I just love One Piece, and so I'm so glad that I get to work on it. Um, as you were mentioning earlier about getting into a rhythm, that's another show that I try to, I have a rhythm for that show, but each arc is different. Like some things are just completely silly
Right.
and fun, like the Davy back fights and stuff like that, which is one of the things we recently recorded. And then the Water 7 arc is much darker and much more grim, and that's something that we're getting into now. It's fun to take those characters in different places.
Sure.
So,
Now, are there any upcoming projects that you can talk to us about?
are there? Well, I've been working on a lot of One Piece, and we've already mentioned the FMA movie, which I believe will be released at the end of May,
Okay.
and Shiki will be released at the end of May as well. What else?
There's got to be something else.
Legend of the Legendary Heroes just came out,
Okay.
and I played Clow on that, and that was a lot of fun. I think everything else is non-disclosure.
Oh.
Yeah,
Always have those. Always.
it does.
Now, is there any way that fans can keep up with you on the internet, and any final messages for your fans?
Yes, I'm very thankful that I have any. You guys are awesome. I appreciate it. Um, let's see, as far as ways to keep up with me, I have a website. It's really old school, and it feels like when you log on to it, you're looking at something from the 90s because it's probably true. So if you rock at websites, get in touch with me. But as far as newer stuff, I have a Facebook fan page, and I also have my normal Facebook, which you can subscribe to. I try to keep the actual friends to people I know and know in
Yes.
person and stuff like that. But
I'm one of them.
yes, but you can keep up with me and all the silly stuff that I do
Right.
there. But the fan page is a lot more industry
you're
information.
working on.
Yeah, of what I'm working on, so
Sure.
that works out better.
That's probably what more people want to find out about.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, no one wants to know what I have to eat every day.
Probably not.
For a picture. Yeah.
All right. Well, Mike, it's always a pleasure talking with you, and
Always
it's good
pleasure.
seeing you.
Good seeing you.
And I think you have an autograph session or
I
something.
do right now,
So,
about 5 minutes.
gotta let him go. Good talking with you.
Good talking with you. Bye, guys.